call this morning's meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Item 3 on the agenda is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Just a reminder, there are 5-minute time limits per person, and anyone wanting to speak to this agenda item must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. We have 2 on our sign-in sheet this morning, and I'll ask that when you come forward, we do a good job of speaking right into the microphone because we've got some folks joining us via phone this morning. Rick Weibel.
Rick Weibel, Elkton, South Dakota. Thank you, County Commissioners. And so you may have heard my name in the press. They're labeling me as an election denier, but that is completely false. I truly believe that the elections did happen. As a matter of fact, if anybody were to be honest and pull the election rolls, they would find that I have been voting in every single election possible within the county of Brookings. It's also unfortunate that Senator Schoenbeck lacks decorum and is marginalizing voters who have questions about the elections and the standards. The reporting in South Dakota, unfortunately, is biased and not putting out all of the truth. We had a press conference a week ago outlining some of the evidence as well as the facts. I was hoping to be here before that press conference, before your last Tuesday meeting, to kind of give you a preview as to what I was going to be talking about. And I also want to request at the next meeting that I be on the agenda to help you with a couple of things. Number 1 is about an election improvement plan. So the first item on there is that the county purchased the ES&S electionware reporting software for $8,200 plus pay for the cost of the 4 to 5 days training. This is actually part of the system that you should have, because under Section 7 of the EAC guidelines, the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines, it's imperative that you understand the security. Without it, you don't have the functional software to determine whether or not your election systems are secure, as well as access to the cast vote records. Part of that is also to be able to look at a post-election audit review Wednesday, Thursday after this election, utilizing college students and making sure that we have party balance to review all of the ballots, because without the cast vote records and the reporting software, in essence, you are violating the accuracy of the EAC recommendations. And the voluntary voting system guidelines are not just voluntary, because in our state statutes, we adopted them as a standard and we test towards that. I'm hoping that the 2020 ballots were maintained and that the cast vote records can be turned over so that we can have multi-party review of those for the accuracy of the equipment. D, to also make sure that the county is going to make sure that the cast vote records are public, and there are 5 different versions through that iteration, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But also, I want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from, because we do not even meet the minimum standards of the EAC. The entire state of South Dakota, with the exception of 4 counties, would receive an F grade. The other 4 counties would receive a D, because they do have the electionware reporting software, but they actually don't use it to actually review the cast vote records, and they also don't do a post-election audit or review. Unlike 45 other states across the United States, South Dakota is one of 5 states without a post-election review, without a post-election audit to determine the accuracy of the equipment. It's unfortunate that our state did not take that up into consideration last year when our group presented bills to put us in alignment with the state of Minnesota, where they have a 3% post-election review within each of the counties across its state. It's so that way they can determine the accuracy of the equipment. You'll hear from election officials that will say that they do a pre-test and a post-test, but that is simply based upon a pre-printed stack of cards that are perfectly printed on laser printers, not the real world environment. It's great that you actually do the test of a control, but you don't do the test in the real world like the other 45 states do. And that is significant. The other concern that I've brought up behind the scenes is that there is a statement out on the web that says that Brookings County had 1,186 votes switched in the 2020 election. And unfortunately, these votes switched happened across the entire United States is the claim. However, we've not had a single county go through and refute this. As a voter, I want to make sure that our election systems are secure. And right now, this stands out there, and because it has not been proven right or wrong, without the cast vote records and without a post-election review to determine the legitimacy of this type of information, whether true or false, still stands out there. I even presented in front of the legislature that the cast vote records do exist, and actually as part of the Help America Vote Act, that's where the EAC was created, and we also have in codified law that we look to their guidelines for that information. I hope you'll put me on the future agenda so I can go through this in more detail. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Jeff Struey. And again, speak right into the microphone for us, and please state your name for the record.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Struey. I live on the southwest side of the city of Brookings. I won't get into detail like Rick did, but I just want to point out a couple of things. There are a couple of people that I follow quite well, and I must say that one of them is a philosopher, a philosopher from the 21st century, and one of their comments was, if you're not, if you don't, if you're not pro-life, then I can't trust you. And the other one that I follow quite well is someone who actually happened to be a person born through a rape. And now that can't be easy, and it's something that we need to dwell on. But I have just one question for everybody here. Whom do you follow? And I will simply state it as it says in John 14:6. I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And what does that mean? I am the way means he is the only way. I am the truth means I have been given my time for the last 2 years seeking truth. And when I find truth, and I notice it in election integrity issues, I spend countless hundreds of hours viewing video, testimony, and other things. It's one thing when our congressional leadership, like our 2 senators and our congressmen, say that there is no election fraud, and yet one of them is the only Republican that appears on 2,000 Mules and claims that there's no election fraud, but here's the fraud. So with that, I just want to say that I concur immensely with our election people here in Brookings County. They do a fantastic job. There is countless things that they need to do between absentee ballots and running an election down below for everybody that wants to come in. So with that, I'd like to give back my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Corrections to the current agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda items. We have approval of the minutes, approval of the travel requests, approval of personnel action notices, approval of cellular authorizations, approval of the human services report. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to remove the travel education
request form to attend the Republican noon luncheon from the consent agenda.
Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Any further modifications? Hearing none, all those, we'll call the roll on the amended agenda, or the amended consent agenda items.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 6, routine business. We've got approval of the claims. And then I would imagine that we will move the item removed from the consent agenda to item 6, C. Okay. So approval of the claims. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6B, department head reports. We'll start with 4-H. Sonia.
Good morning. Happy National 4-H Week. I was thinking this morning about I would like to speak with you, and I've had an opportunity to bring 4-H members in front of you, but today I'm bringing myself as a 4-H alumni. I got my start in Cottington County 4-H as a 7-year-old founding member of the Happy Hearts 4-H Club. My mother was the leader. I graduated from that program at the age of 19, never imagining that I would be still serving in a 4-H capacity years later. I've had the opportunity to watch my own children try, learn, struggle, and grow through their projects, in addition to many others. I've seen them come through their comfort zone, come out of their comfort zone, doing things like being a 4-H camp counselor and running for the 4-H legislator. I've had 4-H members return as adult volunteers, and I've had the opportunity to watch them return with their children as Cloverbud members and beginner members of 4-H. I've seen that the opportunities for all have become available for 4-H not only in Brookings County, but across the state, and have enjoyed the opportunity to watch and grow and learn alongside of them. Where did you get your start? Thank you for providing opportunities for tomorrow's leaders today. Are there any questions of me from my report or about 4-H in general?
I just see your numbers have increased over the last few years, which is good.
It is good to see, in fact. So the new 4-H year began October 1st, and I have some very zealous people. I'm excited for what the new year brings. I've already interviewed one new volunteer that will be serving in a 4-H shooting sport instructor capacity, and another one that will be scheduling it. He's a college student, and I'm excited to have, his name is Austin. I'm excited to have him join the ranks of volunteer while he fulfills the rest of his time at SDSU. In addition, those excited families are already calling and, okay, we don't want to miss shooting sport registration, or have we done this correctly? When will we see, So it's exciting to see and hear from these individuals that are looking forward to what 4-H has to offer them here, in addition to just being cognizant of that time frame and making certain that they have their ducks in a row prior to enrollment or registration for especially shooting sports rollout. And I look forward to having those new members, those new families, and of course those new volunteers. Our program in Brookings County wouldn't be what it is without them.
You answered my next question, is if you had any more volunteers coming forward.
So those are the first two anyway that I've gotten started for this new year, but I anticipate a few more. I've got a little list at least of candidates that hoping to tap into for some different roles. And not even just the ones that require them to be registered, which is a registered volunteer within 4-H of South Dakota just indicates that they've successfully completed a background check and they're on the list of identified volunteers in the state. However, we have volunteers that serve in capacities that don't necessarily require all of those components because they're under the guidance of a registered volunteer and they're not doing anything with youth that would require that, like chaperoning overnight camp, going on a trip, those sorts of things. But as we look to just do some things differently in the next year, I know that we'll be tapping into some new individuals that are involved in our program, that understand our program and have the capacity to be available to assist, but are really looking for just that short-term, in-the-moment commitment versus long-term. And we need those people just as much, and they help make things run effectively and efficiently, and I look forward to having some of those new faces with us this year too.
Because potentially you're adding another shooting sport time.
We might be. We do have a volunteer who has indicated an interest in having a line on Friday evening, like maybe starting 5:30, 6 o'clock. That works really well in the range. It's open. People aren't looking to book a lot of things, so I had no problem booking that additional time for our tentative archery line. I think it might be a really nice option for some of those families that are just looking to be done for the week. Like, let's do this Friday night, and then we don't have to go anywhere Saturday and Sunday. Or we're booked solid Saturday and Sunday, and we're running for this event, and we're running for that event. Friday night fits into our schedule really nice. We don't have all the logistics for that worked out yet, because it does require a few instructors, but it's in the works, and they're kind of brainstorming how that might look and who can help fill that void.
Any other questions or comments for Sonia?
Okay, well,
Great.
thank you. If you
Thank
have a
you.
chance to wear anything green, even if it doesn't say Brookings County 4-H on it, wear something green this week.
I do want to say Achievement Days were really fun. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had a lot of positive comments, nice to have things back and good numbers. We had good numbers this year too, which is reassuring.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Pierce, just a reminder, really close to your microphone. Thank you. Moving on to Highway Department.
Just a couple of things here. I'm sure you guys have noticed the striping crew finally showed up. They started with our chip seal routes, and they're continuing to retrace / correction on some of the previous year's projects that we had with them. The highway staff's been working on putting shoulders out on the new asphalt that just got laid out by Sinai. And this week we're working on approaches to wrap that project up. And the only other thing I got here is the structure south of Bruce that Pram Construction's working on. Did work to pour the east abutment that was in need of repair, and now they're going to be working on some deck repair. And we're looking at, hopefully by the end of October, that thing be opened up for winter. Then next spring, it'll be closed down again to finish the deck overlay.
Great. Any questions for Brian?
Just a quick comment. I did have a constituent in my office last week or the week before, basically said something about striping on the new asphalt, and it was covered, and they wondered when that was going to be accomplished. I said, well, that's the contract that we have out there, and it's a little behind. He called me or texted me about 2 days later, said, wonderful, you got a job done. And so that striping is
Yes.
up to date.
It was very, very well needed. I know that those roads that we did this year with the chip seal sat quite a while without it. I know we were done right at about the beginning of July with that, so it sat quite a while without stripes.
Anyway, thank you for having that finished.
Yep. Oh yeah, the cross arms in Elkton were completed last week also. I forgot to mention that.
Have you had an opportunity to start looking at the budget stuff we talked about last time where we're going to figure out?
Stacy and I and Lori sat down last week and talked over what we have for bridge projects. I have yet to meet with you guys on what we want to do with our 5-year plan wants to look.
I'd just like to get the assignments in place so we know what we have available. So,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you. Community Development and Emergency Management.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got a siren test today at 1 o'clock. You'll be hearing the warning sirens going off, hopefully, and we'll make sure that they sound and rotate. The public should be aware that as the winter weather sets in, there's a point that we will stop testing them over the winter time because the extreme cold weather can damage the equipment more than actually test it. So as the temperatures drop, we'll try to get an announcement out when we do decide to stop testing. We've got a joint public hearing today with the City of Brookings Planning Commission and the Brookings County Planning Commission. That starts at 7 p.m. in this facility. We've got a zoning meeting, starts immediately afterwards at 8 p.m. We had our big September National Preparedness Month event with Tommy the Turtle at the Dakota Nature Park. Looks like there is between 270 and right at 300 people show up to that event. We had our big exercise, full-scale exercise out in Volga, and that went real well. We had Sioux Valley Energy come in, and they demonstrated how they would actually shut off the power line if a farm implement struck a live power line. The farmer or individual would stay in the vehicle, they'd be called out, de-energize the power line, then the occupant of the farm equipment could be safely extracted and, if necessary, taken to the hospital. So that exercise went well. I thank all the participants there. We've started our fiscal year 2023 local emergency planning performance grant. That's based off the federal fiscal year, so that started 1 October. The Heartland Greenway carbon pipeline has filed with the Public Utilities Commission as of September 27th. We've got the book, and we'll maintain the filing book in our office. And for the County Commission, I would like to request permission to apply for party status on this particular item. What that would allow us to do is if any correspondence goes into the Public Utilities Commission for this particular pipeline, then we would get a copy of it. Does the commission have any problems with that?
I think it's appropriate.
Yep, I have no objections.
Are you aware of any downside to doing that, Bob?
Of the party status? No, it's to me it's doing your due diligence, because at least you're aware. Because you get all correspondence, pro, con. You get the thoughts of the Public Utilities Commission. Anything that's published or sent to the Public Utilities Commission, you get a copy of it. The only thing we will not get a copy of is anything filed under the confidential rules through the Public Utilities Commission, and that's all state and federal guided. So, no, I think it's an excellent thing to do. And my main experience is natural gas pipelines, of course, but this is a new experience for me too. So it'll be a learning experience for all of us, and that way I can keep the board notified. I'm gonna go on the radio today. I'm gonna bust loose at 9:15. I'll send Richard up in case you have any county development questions to answer them. I'm gonna go on the radio, talk about fall, autumn preparedness, emergency preparedness, how to get your house ready for the fall. And the last thing I've got is the National Association of Counties have a fall meeting in Chicago, Illinois, the last week of November. It looks like my budget, after the travel request today was approved, most of that travel is going to be picked up by the association I'm going to. I wanted to get your thoughts before I filled out a travel request of going to the NACO fall board meeting.
Are they doing that both in person and virtually, Bob?
I get that, or I will have to check.
Okay.
But it's just outside Chicago, Illinois. What I would prefer to do is a drive down, and I'm willing to do a share with the county, whatever the county commission felt. You know, look at the flights. I can tell you, flights to Chicago is not cheap right now. So, driving might be the most cost effective way. But I'll do some research on it and fill out a travel request. And if you don't think it's worth going to, I won't go to it, obviously. But for
Sounds
time
good.
constraint, I almost need to put a travel request in for the next county commission meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Sheriff's Office.
I don't have, excuse me, I don't have anything unless you guys have some questions. I know that's hard to believe, but
Any questions for Marty? No? Office.
Good morning. You probably noticed the absentee area is up and running on the first floor of the county city building. We've had over 400 voters so far. The deadline to register a vote to vote again is October 24th at 5 p.m. Sample ballots can be obtained in our office or from the gals out in the hallway. So far, we've had 6 nursing facilities, assisted living centers that have residents who want assistance casting their ballots. And we have to do that according to South Dakota Codified Law 12-19-9.1. And so we will be conducting that on the week of October 17th. We're told that they are very happy to have us coming as they haven't gotten to vote in this manner since 2018. So it will be a good change for them. Weekly meetings are now taking place with the Secretary of State's office and auditors across the state to answer questions, make sure everything's running as efficiently and effectively as possible with the elections. We have 2 mock elections scheduled on Thursday, October 20th and Thursday, October 27th. And a reminder for the public, if you're coming to the building for any office, for any purpose, you cannot come in with political paraphernalia on you, T-shirts, hats, pins, your vehicles, if they have stickers, painting on them, whatever it may be, you cannot come within 100 feet of the building. We've had a lot of instances where we've had to go have people move vehicles, so just a reminder. Second half of real estate property taxes are due at the end of the month. They need to be postmarked if you're mailing them by the 31st of October to avoid late fees. Also, please include some kind of identifying information with your payment, the payment stub, something like that, so we apply your payment properly. We do have the drop box for after hours on the west side of the building, and we will again be putting the payment box in the hallway outside our office. And I did send out to the papers and the radio reminders, so that will be happening later this month. The new motor vehicle system that we were all dreading is not happening anymore. They scrapped that. They're having the same problems as other companies, keeping employees, especially computer programmers, to work on that. And so I anticipate it'll be a couple years, and they're looking at just copying over something from another state that they know will work. The class of 2023 Leadership Brookings started, and we have Jenna taking part, and she wanted to be sure and thank the commission for allowing her to have the opportunity to take part in that. The 2023 liquor license and cider license renewal applications were mailed out to licensees on September 30th, and we plan on having those ready for you to act on at the November 1st meeting. Also, as you know, there's been an increase interest in the voting, and our goal is to have the absentee process as smooth and as efficient for both our office and the voting public. So due to unforeseen election staffing situations and the increase in requests for information that we have really had a lot of this year, we're kind of getting stretched a little thin in the election staffing area. So I'd like to hire one more part-time election worker for the absentee voting area to alleviate that. I do have money in the budget, and so I would like to hire someone and run the opening open until filled.
I have no objection.
I have no objection.
Same. Any objections, Stacy? I would imagine not.
No.
So I think that will be fine to get that published.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our scheduled 9 o'clock, which is a public hearing and action to approve a retail on and off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for Beach Bums Inc., DBA Danceland Campground. The applicant forward. And we'll just have you state your name for the listening public to start with.
Paul Powers.
Sounds. Jenna, do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yes, I can do that. This application is going to be treated as a new application because his renewal application wasn't submitted when we did everybody else's. So we will treat this application as if it was a new one. We did publish the notice in the newspapers, and then Paul Powers is here in front of you if you have any questions for him.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. It says that the license is not in active use. I get that, but when will it be in active use if it's granted?
As soon as it's approved.
So you're not just holding on to it, you're.
No.
Essentially, this will come renew at a different time each year then?
So this license goes during the fiscal year. So malt beverage, would be effective from July 1 of 2022 to June 30th, 2023. He would then get cycled back in with the rest of the licensees. So, yep, just a little bit behind.
With that background, would there be a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, at that, we'll open the public hearing. Any proponents? Any opponents? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any further questions or comments from the commission? All right, with that,
Thank you.
call the roll, please, Jenna.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
motion carries.
Great. We'll move back to item 6C, which is the item removed. And that's a continuing education travel request for the state auditor luncheon featuring Rich Satgast for that Republican luncheon. Is there a motion to approve? Do you want to discuss at all?
For the purpose of discussion, I'll move approval.
Okay. Is there a second for purposes of discussion?
Second.
Okay. Commission discussion?
This is not an appropriate thing for the county to be paying for. It's a political activity, and it's just not appropriate.
Any further comments?
I would concur.
All right. Given that, Jenna, would you call the roll, please?
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Oh, wait a
Aye.
minute.
No.
No, excuse me.
No, you want to say nay.
I'm voting no on the motion.
We want to say no.
Bartley,
No.
Jensen,
No.
Boersma,
No.
motion fails.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to our 9:05, our scheduled discussion and possible action regarding the 1921 building parking lot. So we'll invite forward the applicants, John and Jacob, if you want to join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Feel free to let us know what the discussion and proposed action might be.
Okay, well, first, my name's John Mills, and I've got Jacob Mills here with me for those that are listening in. Maybe a little history and kind of a summary of the situation. Back in 2003, myself and a business partner purchased from the county the former school building that's on 4th Street just north of the courthouse. As part of that purchase and for our intended use, we knew we didn't have enough parking. And so the county owns the parking lot where just to the north. So we came to an easement agreement that was signed by the county for us to make use and make use of a portion of that parking lot for our parking needs for our building. As a trade-off to the county, that easement requires that the 1921 building, which is what we call that building from the year that it was built, it requires that we take care of the routine maintenance, and then it outlines what that means. Our responsibility is to do seal coating, crack sealing, and striping. Those 3 things are listed, and we've been routinely doing those throughout the life of the agreement. I didn't anticipate, I'm sure the county commission at that time didn't anticipate that parking lot would ever be needed as a construction staging area. But for the past 2+ years, that's how the county has made use of it. Obviously, we knew that was not anticipated by the agreement, but because we're local and understand the constraints you were dealing with of a very tight site and limited places to put things, we didn't object to it. But as you would expect, there was substantial wear and tear on a parking lot far and above what either the county or we anticipated. And so, and you can see some of that, and I know I did have the opportunity to tour the parking lot. I know Commissioner Jensen was there, and there you're seeing on the screen some photos that we took during the course just to show the extent of the use of that parking lot. And obviously, all those things that are there came in on a truck and were unloaded by forklifts, and that's how they left. And during the operation, there were daily trips in and out of large machines like the one you see there coming and going. And so there was significant additional wear on that parking lot that was not anticipated by our easement agreement. So our ask is really a simple one, just saying the next round of maintenance we feel should be done by the county, should be scheduled, paid for, however you choose to do it, on whatever schedule you choose, but that you would do that. I know I did find and provide to Stacy a copy of our most recent maintenance that we had done on that lot, and it was fairly recent. It was 2019, which kind of surprised me as I looked at the lot because it looks like it was longer ago than that. So that's a summary, the background, and that's our ask, is that the county would take care of the next round of maintenance, and then we would be back to the original agreement where we would take it forward from there.
Questions or comments from the commissioners?
Last week I met with John, and Brian also attended, and representatives from Henry Carlson. There is a few areas that need immediate attention, and Brian had kind of come up with a plan to take care of the immediate areas, and I don't know if we got an estimate down the road for a seal coat, but it'd be a couple years. But there is some areas that need immediate attention, and Brian figures they can handle that, the highway equipment. So,
Other questions or comments?
Just a question for Brian. When would you be able to take care of the immediate issues?
This fall yet.
Yeah, that was my question, if it's going to be this fall.
I think that there's some areas that if we don't address them, we're going to end up with bigger issues. We're not talking a huge dollar figure. for that. I mean, obviously, I'd have it recorded, what we would use out there, but I mean, I'm maybe a couple thousand at the highest, just aiming high, just to take care of those areas where the containers had sat, or any of the heavier pieces. Like I know that they had mentioned that there was a mortar type cement mixer thing set up to kind of address some of those areas. I mean, we're not talking a large area, but just to take care of them before they do fall completely apart.
As far as the anticipated seal coat in 2 years or whenever it's scheduled, do we have capabilities of doing that ourselves, or do we have to contract that out? And what do you think
That
the
would
costs
most
are? John
likely
probably
be-
knows what the cost.
Contracted.
Any idea of the cost?
I never got a chance to look at what the square footage estimate was from their last bill, but
I think
I could get
was the
that
square
to you.
footage on that bill there?
No, I'll look.
It is a seal coat and then the striping also.
Yeah, you have to obviously restripe.
You know, as this project moved forward, we didn't have any other options really except to close streets down, and we didn't really want to do that in the area. So that's basically why the parking lot was utilized, and it worked well for them, I guess.
And I mean, I think we realize that that's additional wear and tear that wouldn't have been anticipated by that agreement. I think, personally, I think there's a lot of responsibility that lies with us to get it back to the condition that it was in prior to our construction activities. And whether that's a decision we can make to commit future dollars today, or by consensus making sure that we get the immediate needs fixed, and then with the intent of moving forward to ensure that that is the intent. I think that's something that makes a lot of sense personally.
Does Henry Carlson, or in what we're finishing up on the jail budget, are there any funds there? Do they have any liability? Where are we at on all of that?
There's very little funding left in the contingency for the jail project, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that was also included in the packet.
And we talked about that. Basically, we kind of provided the area for them to use. So we actually suggested it. So I don't feel
Commissioner
Henry
Cook.
Carlson should have to be involved with it.
I have no objection to us doing the next seal coat. I'm not sure what the process is to make that happen, if it's going to be 2 years from now, because we don't do the budget stuff for 2 years from now. And I'm sure, John, you understand that part, but I have no objection to us having that responsibility in the future. I just don't know procedurally how we make that work.
And I'm not sure at this point in the season if a full seal coat is going to be feasible based on construction timelines. So it would have to be something that we would try to budget for next year or the following year. And so I think we can certainly move in that direction to make sure that we plan for and budget for it, and then provide those out of whichever part of. Stacy might have to weigh in on which fund that would be, because it shouldn't come out of Brian's funding. I believe that's our Building 301 fund.
And then we wanted to make sure that we talked about that we did this next round of seal coat, then they would take over after that again.
Yep. John?
If I might suggest that there be something, a memo or something done in agree to, there's going to obviously be a change in commission members between now and then. And it does involve more than just seal coating. It'd be crack sealing, it'd be restriping, it would be that whole round of. And I did look at the most recent bill from August of 2019, and unfortunately there's no square footages listed, just a list of the project they were working on and what they did, and the amount of the invoice.
So I think one of the things that we could probably do is ensure that it's in the minutes by consensus that we would allocate funds in the budget for next year or a subsequent year, to ensure that actually gets accomplished, to include crack sealing, seal coating, striping, and repairs. I think we can certainly take action today on making sure that Brian and his team have the authority to go fix those immediate needs.
Just a question, John, and Jacob, you were there for the review with Brian and his request that they go ahead and make the repairs. Are you happy with what the repairs would be outside of the seal coat? In other words, if he goes in this fall, does those patches and repairs, are you okay with that?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. I think the agreement, always anticipated that the county would be doing the major work on this parking lot throughout its life. In other words, any alligatoring where a patch has to happen, or if there's ever an overlay, that would be a county's responsibility. Our only responsibility is the routine maintenance that was itemized in the agreement. So the patching that he's talking about doing was always the county's responsibility and would continue to be. And so that's really kind of
And I understand that. My question is, are you satisfied with the patching he's suggested they do?
I'm not aware of the specifics of where they're doing it, but I think
Confident that we can handle it.
I am absolutely confident that your
Okay.
highway
So my
superintendent
next
knows what needs
point
to be
would
done.
be simply that
and can do it.
we put it in our minutes, but I would like to have it seal coated and restriped after the patching is done as soon as possible next spring. There's no sense waiting 2 years because we're going to have patches where we're going to have stripes that are off and everything is off, nothing matches. I would assume we do this next year as soon as possible.
I thought I heard Commissioner Jensen say it would not need it next year. And then we're going to shorten the life on the next. You understand what I'm saying?
I think we were waiting, believe the street department was gonna take street sweeper and clean it and look at it a little closer, but it was still 90% of the parking lot's in good shape from the last seal coat. The mastic sealing that Brian was gonna do was just a few isolated areas that wouldn't be covering up much of the striping.
Okay.
If you look at it, I think you might be able to see it in some of the photos, but there was a major, you could tell, a cutoff area that was that needed to be done. It was in a straight line, and then the area coming into the east driveway addressed that issue, which wouldn't involve covering up much of the striping. I think in 2 years it would probably need a seal coat, but it's relatively, the seal coat that was done was relatively still pretty good. Like Leanne said, you prolong the life of it. If we do it in 2 years, you won't have to do it for, extend it that much longer. So
I have a question for Stacy. Are you able to hear us, Stacy?
Yeah.
So is this the type of thing that might be appropriate in the 301 fund when you start doing assignments and we're smoothing things out for the year, to maybe put a dollar amount assigned in the 301 fund for sealing that parking lot? And I realize that doesn't budget it. That has to be done in the proper year, but that would help, along with the minutes, to make clear what our intent was.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, if we're not going to take it out of the highway fund, which, like you said, wouldn't be appropriate in this instance, then it would be out of the 301 fund.
And maybe if I could just make a proposal and see if we have a consensus, because we're not set for action, are we? Okay. Possible. And maybe what we'd do, it was $15,000 the last time it was done, and maybe we'd put $20,000 in the assign in the 301 fund for this project.
I think that would be appropriate. Is this a proposed motion?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Would there be a second to assign 20,000 in our 301 fund to budget for future crack sealing
Maintenance on this
maintenance and
part.
striping?
second.
Any further discussion?
My only question is that enough with inflation and oil prices and everything else? Is that enough money? I mean, we'll have to make a secondary appropriation if it's not, so I guess I don't have a problem with making this appropriation so it's on the record. But I just caution that it may not be enough money in
And
2 years.
In either case, because it would be assigned in fund balance, we would have to transfer and do budget authorization in that year anyway. So
Okay.
if there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 8, regular business. Action to remove agreement number 22-90, an amended Brookings City and County Government Center lawn care and snow removal agreement from the table. Is there a motion to remove that from the table?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So the motion on the table was to approve agreement 22-90, and there was a handful of comments regarding specific areas that folks wanted to be added. So further discussion on that motion?
And again, I have a question for Stacy, and what I did not do is pull the one from last time and compare it with this one. What changes have been made? Because I don't see anything that deals with the seating issue and the landscaping around the detention center.
When I met with Austin Ribstein over at the facility, he said there would be no increase in the contracted amount that's in the agreement to do that additional work.
But we did not put the additional work into the contract.
It's listed under landscape maintenance. I think that it encompasses all landscape maintenance. The reseeding has been done.
Any further questions on this one?
And Stacy, then they will maintain those beds that circle the addition to the jail?
Yes. Yep, we walked around the facility and looked at all of those areas.
Other clarifications? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, action to approve agreement number 22-91, amendment number 1 to SDDOT agreement number 717431, a 2020 bridge replacement funding agreement. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Brian, do you have comments on this one?
Yeah, this was the first round of the local, excuse me, the first round of the local federal grants. And this was, I believe the major part of the amendments just to extend the time frame on this. Obviously, it was awarded in 2020, and the original agreement was 3 years, and we're going to be passing that, obviously. And our match on this is 18.05% of county funds. So,
Any questions for Brian? Comments by the commissioners? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C, action to approve agreement number 22-92, a State of South Dakota Department of Transportation Bridge Improvement Grant Agreement for Preliminary Engineering, State Administration for structure number 06-193-130, project number BRF 6050 parentheses 00, 23-1 PCN 0986. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
these were awarded at the end of August. We applied for 3 and we were successful for 3 preliminary engineering grants.
Great. Any further discussion on item C? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D, action to approve agreement number 22-93, a State of South Dakota Department of Transportation Bridge Improvement Grant Agreement for Preliminary Engineering, State Administration, for structure number 06310-059, project number BRO 8006, parentheses 00, 23-2 PCN 0987. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? Same thing. Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item E, Action to approve agreement number 22-94, a State of South Dakota Department of Transportation Bridge Improvement Grant Agreement for Preliminary Engineering, State Administration for structure number 06-320-235, project number BRF 6539, parentheses 00, 23-3, PCN 0989. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? The third of three. Hearing no further discussion, call the roll, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item F, action to approve change order number 2 and the final payment for the 2022 Brookings County surfacing project. Is there a motion to approve? Do
Move approval.
we have a second?
Second.
Brian, any discussion on this one?
The major part of this change order was the traffic control out there when we did this asphalt project. We were doing it around the same time that 81 was finishing up, and we decided to close the road down while they were doing the paving. So the lion's share of this change order is for the pilot car. They maintained flaggers at the ends to allow local traffic to enter and exit their farmsteads, but aside from that, that's the lion's share of this change order is we didn't have any pilot car running.
Great. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item G, action to approve work change directive number 1 for the structure modifications and guardrail projects for structure number 06-112-080. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Comments, Brian?
This was a small change order that we determined that would be best if we had some signage off of Highway 81 to forewarn the motorists that would be heading east on County Road 6 for the bridge that's closed down. And the signage is up. The major issue we were having is you'd come down off of a hill and you had to either go north or south. So we added these signs to forewarn the motorists.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item H, action to direct Brookings County Finance Officer to refrain from taking tax deed on a property that may not be in the best interest of Brookings County. It is parcel number 40114-00500-000-001, -01, certificate number 180097, Christie Heights Edition, Tract 1, Block 5, the drainage pond. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? I think we presented it last meeting, and so this is the action to accompany that same discussion, correct? Okay. Any other questions or comments by the commission?
Just, Lori, was this one that you and I talked about, or is that
Yes.
a separate one?
Yes.
This is that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Any thoughts on discussing with the city options for moving forward for these types of properties?
I have spoken with a couple people in the city, and these type of properties are being discussed right now. They're not really sure how they're going to go forward with dealing with those. So I just feel it in the best interest of the county not to move on a tax deed on the property.
Sounds good. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item I is a review of the draft of the 214th Street request for proposals. And I provided a paper copy of this for review, and the items that I specifically wanted to go over were on page 3. So the cover sheet, the index, and then talking specifically about the schedule. So as we look at the 214th Street request for proposals. What we're looking for is a hydraulic or a hydrologic and hydraulic study plus feasibility from local civil engineering firms. And so that H&H and feasibility is something that we would look for in preparation to put this out for a future project upon completion of the interchange. And that operative word is future, because we're not entirely sure when, since it would be a combination of funding between Brookings County and some other granting agency. It's cost prohibitive for the county to endeavor to do this alone, and so we're specifically trying to be prepared for grant opportunities. So when we look at schedule in particular, our goal is to make sure that the request for proposal is posted on the county's website a week from now. Actually, I think we'd release it, the advertisement, to the local papers a week from now on October 11th. It would be posted to the county's website October 11 or 13. I think we have to double check that. Have a deadline for questions of November 8th, with proposals received by Brookings County the following week. Our goal would be to make sure that we notify shortlisted firms prior to Thanksgiving, do interviews, and negotiate so that the commencement for notice to proceed would occur prior to the end of FY 2022. A couple of the considerations that we've included are that the consultant endeavor to take a look at some of the traffic information related to potential turning lanes and any future multimodal bike lane as a part of the right of way. Not necessarily that they plan for the entire thing, but that they would think through where that, if there were a bike lane extension, where would that go in the right of way? Would it be contiguous to the road, or would it be offset from the road? So not a full design solution, just feasibility in terms of kind of space planning, what that roadway would be in terms of width. And then one of the other future considerations that is included in here is future water for the city of Aurora. And so whether that water pipeline would be provided within the right-of-way, under the roadbed, or adjacent to the roadbed is something that we would want to make sure that we have them at least consider, because I know that's been one of the considerations for the city of Aurora.
We know where the water line is now? Isn't there a water line to Aurora now? I thought
There
the
isn't
big-
one.
Well, there is, but it's a mile north.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a mile north.
Comes in from the
Okay.
north.
Because that one goes by Novita, doesn't it? A mile to the north, that water line.
Okay. Okay.
Is that in 213? Does it run down
Yeah.
213?
Yep.
I'm wondering about project boundaries. You have 34th Avenue to the city limits. Do we need to include the city limits within the study, or?
That's a great question. I think that might be something that we would want to clarify with the city of Aurora. I think right now they are paved to the city limits. And so I don't know if that would expand into the city's scope. We could certainly look at it. I think in that regard, because they're already paved to that area, and I don't know that we'd anticipate widening their roadbed or their right of way. There's probably less scope inside of the city limits.
That's a question I had, because you mentioned turning lanes and such, where that comes up to our County Road 23. So if this project moved forward, the township would have to grant us the road.
Yep.
And typically, we go through the city with the road. With the project boundary, we would stop at the city limit then.
Would you like to see it extended to that main drag? I'm trying to think of that main drag.
County Road 23.
23,
I think we need to do that because of that typical section through there. I'm sure that it needs to be looked at.
Obviously, we're looking at this as an increased traffic for that particular road stretch, and I don't think that the city limits to 23 is really built for the increased traffic needs we may see from heavy trucks and so forth that might use that in the future if it's constructed. So I think it needs to go all the way to County 23.
Sounds good. We'll modify that in under section 1A, and then project boundaries will modify that to say that it will go approximately 3 miles from 34th Avenue to County Road 23.
I think it'd be best interest of the county and Aurora also.
That sounds good. And right now we don't have anything in there for lighting or anything like that. That's not part of the design practice. It's really understanding the right of way, kind of how traffic flows would look and proposed turn lanes, and then feasibility related to hydrology and hydraulics.
And once we get a firm that would handle this, we'd make sure that the scope of the work would be valid for a grant opportunity in the future, or?
I think we can make sure that that's noted.
Do we have an estimated cost?
For this proposal process?
Well, what we might see proposals come in at. We don't really have an estimated cost because we have no clue.
It depends a little bit on how busy engineering firms are and how much flexibility we're willing to give in terms of when that work can be scheduled. For an H&H and a feasibility study, if we're asking them to do it in the middle of their busiest, like, CA season, that's not going to be cheap. And so
That was my concern.
understanding that we want to offer a little bit of flexibility in terms of it being done in calendar year 2023, but that knowing we likely won't be undertaking the project in 2023 and would use it for applications the end of FY 2023, most likely. A lot of those grant applications are kind of fall time frame, I believe. That might be a grant application late in the year. So
I concur that the engineering companies are really busy, and with the infrastructure money that's out there, there's not enough engineers to handle all the projects that are around or that could be done. So, yeah, it's a concern of mine that this might not be the best time to have the study, but I guess there's never a good time. The cost will always go up.
very true. Any other scope adjustments or timeline adjustments? Brian, anything we should know about concerns from Highway? I would imagine we'll want to communicate this back with the township and the city of Aurora at some point here shortly as well in the next week. Give them a copy of it so that if anybody asks them, that they're also aware of what's going on.
You would have two townships.
Two townships.
It's on a township divide.
Okay.
Trenton and Aurora.
Great.
Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah. Stacy and I will get that out and published. So for any members of the public or as folks are talking with their friends in the world of civil engineering, let them know that it's coming. Cool. We'll move on to item 9, Commission Department Director's Report. Stacy.
Okay, I am. So, information that was in the packet, I received an email from City Manager Paul Brasino about the cost estimate for the new or reconstruction of the city's law enforcement center. There was discussion about the county doing a cost share on the dispatch portion of that project. I did include the E911 Joint Powers Board or Joint Powers Agreement that we have with the city. I believe I included that in your packet. I think. I hope I did. And if not, maybe it was handed out this morning.
We got the Joint Powers Agreement on our desk this morning, Stacey.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, you can kind of look at that. There kind of, I think, item number 8, operations, kind of speaks to what that agreement's, the 1/3, the 2/3 portion of that. Paul Brasino's email had indicated that their cost estimate, or the county's 1/3 would be just shy of $860,000. That's the cost estimate right now. He asked kind of what next steps would be, so I guess I maybe turn that over as a discussion with you folks. I did have the that funding, the commission projects funding spreadsheet is in your packet once again as well. I did update that to include the blue line under emergency services with that specific dollar amount, the $858,545 that Paul had sent me. So I'd updated that to show kind of what that would look like if you wanted to use dollars in that commission projects fund. I know that was some of the discussion. I think we just kind of had put a plug number in there originally for that. So I guess I leave it up to you to discuss kind of what next steps are, what your thoughts are, and where to go from here. Or if you feel there needs to be more discussion at, with Joint Powers Board, we do have a meeting coming up here I believe just in a couple of weeks too. So
I would suggest that since we have not had that joint discussion with the Joint Powers Board, that we need to do that to further understand this request. It's rather high. It's about $2 million of their projected cost of their law enforcement center, and we don't know the total cost of that yet. So I hate to say we're committed to any particular figure right now until we get more substantial cost estimates based on design criteria. I don't know where they're at. Henry Carlson is obviously making a suggestion or a study on whether they remodel the current facility and add on, or if they build a new facility. So I want to see some of those things studied and discussed by the Joint Powers Board with the county involved, which hasn't been up to this point.
Other comments?
That's a joint powers issue as opposed to E911.
E911 is governed by a joint powers agreement
So it's governed by that agreement, not by the Joint Powers Committee.
for this building, correct?
Yes. It's the E911 Joint Powers Agreement. Thank you.
Correct.
I just want to make that clear on the record.
I would tend to agree with Commissioner Bartley that it's very hard to designate funds for a project we haven't seen, haven't had input on, and have had no detailed analysis of. I understand that cost per square foot has gone up dramatically, but cost per square foot at $500 a square foot plus soft cost plus grossing factor for circulation without even seeing so much as a rough designed plan is very difficult to provide carte blanche $860,000 check back to the city for something that we've had no input on. And so I think the onus is on the city to provide additional information, additional background, and our job on E911 Joint Powers is going to be to ask the tough questions as to why and what is actually needed.
And that's the question
Okay.
I also had was I thought it was equipment and staffing and furnishing. I didn't realize it was building.
I think that's the other piece of this agreement that we want to make sure that going forward, I don't believe that this E911 Joint Powers Agreement ever anticipated a whole-scale building renovation, addition, or reconstruction. And so I don't believe that full buildings were ever considered. I don't know that the county wants to own a third of their building or a third of their portion of dispatch. And so understanding what that starts to look like in terms of what's actually our responsibility versus what's our responsibility to furnish and provide resources for in that joint powers for operations is something completely different than the actual capital improvement.
When I read through this agreement, I agree with you, Commissioner Borgman. I don't think that this encompasses any future building. I think it encompasses existing communication responsibilities, but not projects in the future, especially a building. So I don't know that we're held bound by this agreement as the city makes it out. So I would agree.
So that's something worth discussing.
I could ask to have this topic put on that upcoming October agenda for E911?
That would be great.
Would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was some discussion about using jail project contingency for the cost of the roof projects over at the jail and the sheriff's office. There's only about 4,200 left in the contingency line for that project, so that and I included the PCO, most recent PCO log from Henry Carlson. So we will look at using 301 funds for that, or if there is some other way, I will kind of I'll try to dig into that a little bit more and see. But right now, I would anticipate using 301 or county building funds for those projects. Wanted to update on that because there was some discussion about that at the last meeting. As a follow-up to the discussion, we had a department head meeting last week. We discussed the proposed designs by ARC Inc. for several of our different offices throughout the government center. The department heads would like, or kind of proposing, we get a committee with a couple of commissioners, meet with those department heads, review the designs, and kind of maybe come to maybe an understanding of what next steps might be moving forward. Is that something that the commission would be interested in doing? And if so, who would that be?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm happy to help. Anybody else? You can always nominate Ryan Krogman since he's not here to object.
This is also
That is very true.
Penance.
Let me put it to you this way: if Commissioner Krogman would agree, then fine. If not, I'll do it. But
that sounds great.
Let's ask Commissioner Krogman because he's had some obvious views on this. So.
Yep.
I think it's a good idea to have the department head and commission look at it to get, they're the ones that are using it, and that's who needs to have some input. So.
And I think most of us have probably had a handful of emails from various department heads expressing their views, but I think a conversation would be really helpful.
Okay. Once I'm back, I'll reach out to Ryan and I'll try to get some potential dates sent out to do that. On the wall behind the security desk at the courthouse has been installed. If you haven't been over there to take a look at that, that looks really, really nice. I believe the heater should already be installed. If not, it's scheduled to be installed here shortly. Hopefully here before the weather turns too cold and whatnot. But definitely that wall will definitely help at the security desks with some temperature control there. I did include some information on the Hobo Day weekend activities. Just verifying one more time that you do want me to register you for the parade that Saturday, the 29th of October.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Do you want us to register individually for the president's reception, or will you do that?
You could I would have you just do that individually if you plan to attend some of those other events. I will note them, but I think it would be easier for you just to reply individually. I think the information is on that letter that I sent out, or that was included in my packet.
That's fine.
Okay. And then the only other things I really had were just some of your upcoming dates. This Saturday is the USD SDSU football game and the Banner Associates tailgating event. Next Monday, offices are closed for Native American Day. We do have the Road and Bridge Tour next Wednesday, the 12th. We'll plan on meeting at a little before 8, 7:45, 7:50 be out there. So we'll take off right at 8 o'clock, and then we do plan to have you back to the highway shop by noon. So it's just kind of a half-day tour. The Hobo Day, as we would discuss, I did hand out also. I think something got handed out this morning for each of you on a Meet the New City Leaders event that's happening on Wednesday, October 19th. I believe that got handed out this morning. And then just looking out a little bit further, the 10 county meeting November 16th, just to make sure you have that on your calendar. But other than that, that's all I have.
Any further questions for Stacy? Hearing none, thank you. We'll move on to item 10, State's Attorney's Office report. Short and sweet. Item 11, Commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Pierce.
On we held the legislative forums here in this room, and that was through the Chamber Public Affairs Committee. And then on October 1st, last Saturday, we held the County Commission Forum for the County Commission race and the Sheriff's Forum. They were well attended. We had a lot of people, lots of questions, and it was interesting. And that's all I have to report.
Commissioner Bartley.
September 21st, I had an executive board meeting by the First District Planning in Watertown. We did it on a Zoom meeting. We reviewed several things in executive session, so that were approved at our board meeting on September 29th. That was an executive board meeting early to review the director's contract and the contract we approved in executive session. Regular board meeting followed that, and that was well attended. We did well there. An annual picnic followed that, and that's basically my report. First District Planning from the last time took all my meetings.
Sounds good. Commissioner Jensen.
On the 20th, we had in the afternoon, had a strategic planning meeting with the school, utilities, SDSU, and basically there's a lot going on in Brookings, South Dakota. It's a good meeting. Also, on the 24th, attended the House Legislative Forum. Very well attended here and well run. On the 26th, at a BCOAC advisory board meeting at noon. Excited to say that we moved forward on purchasing a flagpole and everything for an agreement for the flagpole out there and get a flag installed out there. It is a government building, and we felt it was necessary to have a flag out there. So move forward on that. On October 1st, I participated in the County Commission Candidate Forum. Like I said, the Chamber does a very good job of running that. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the staff that was involved also. I then sat in on the Sheriff's Forum. The room was full for both of the forums. I did like the warning signs for the minutes on when you get done speaking. I'd like to have one up here for Marty in the future. So, but it was a good forum for everybody. A lot of respect for each other, and it was well attended. I then went to the SDSU game, and I witnessed Commissioner Krogman being inducted into SDSU Hall of Fame. Congrats. So, that's all I have.
Great. Mine's also pretty short and sweet. September 21st, had a BEDC board meeting, and then on the 1st of October, moderated the Sheriff's Forum, attended the County Commission Forum, and it was lots of questions, probably 3 times as many questions as what we could possibly ask in an hour. And so there's a lot of interest out there on the commission side and on the sheriff's side that in previous years we may not have seen in the same way. So it's pretty exciting to have that kind of visibility for county offices. So with that, I think that's pretty much it. So item number 12, codified law section 1-25-2 parentheses 1 for personnel. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We'll take a brief 5-minute recess.